Hey, good evening and welcome to the second week of Fellowship of Christian Athletes Coaches Corner. I have Joey Robinson with me tonight, a lifelong friend of mine, but before I get into talking to him and introduce him a little bit, hey, Billy Graham said it best, one coach can affect more people in 1 year than most people can in an entire lifetime. The two most powerful words on any campus in any middle school, high school, college are coach said. And at FCA, we take that very seriously. And coach said is a wonderful thing at Mountain Heritage High School because of Joey Robinson, one of the best coaches I know, but even better than that, one of the best men I know. Coach Robinson, hey, thank you for coming on here tonight.
Thank you for letting me be on here. This is a great thing that's going on with FCA, and this time people get to talk a little about sports, and we're not having any sports right now, so it's a great opportunity.
Oh, yeah, a little football without football. Hey, I could get into this, but I'm going to let you talk about your family a little bit. Tell me a little bit about your wife and kids and what's going on in your family's world, Coach.
Yeah, my wife, Tamara, of course, she's a busy lady. She works for Baxter Healthcare and works globally, so she's about as competitive as I am, maybe more competitive in her job, and a huge Mountain Heritage football fan, and lives and breathes for Friday nights. And then, of course, Trevor and Trey. Trevor's my oldest. He's 25 years old and living in Raleigh and graduated from East Tennessee State. And Trey is a sophomore, junior at TSU right now. And both of them majored in the same thing. They're both going into the surveying business and hopefully one day get to work with them. But both of them quarterbacks at Mountain Heritage, came through, played ball boys at Mountain Heritage, and grew up on a bus from the time they were 4 years old, going to games with me and going to practices with me, and just been a joy, and having a family that's there to support you is a blessing.
Yeah, I gotta tell on myself right now. I have a confession to make. I actively recruited Trey Robinson. I offered him. I even told his dad I offered him $200 a week in an exam every time I saw him to come play at Innisfil. But no, not really. But I did do that teasing around. But just wonderful kids, man. Trevor and Trey were both phenomenal football players at Mountain Heritage, and just fun watching them play over there trying to stop them, which you didn't. You just tried to outscore them.
You did.
Well, sometimes, and sometimes I didn't, man. We had a great friendship. Just cutting up a little bit, man. I played. We had to go up there, man, and Jim Fox was coaching with me. We had to go to Mountain Heritage, so it was raining that day, and we called up there to Coach Robinson and say, "Hey, man, we still gonna play? It's it's raining pretty hard here." And Coach Robinson said, "Well, it's kind of like a London mist here." So we get on the bus, man, and we roll up there on the bus, and it's just pouring the rain. And we get off the bus, and Joey comes up, and Jim Fox tells him, says, "You know what, Joey, this is more like it's not a London mist, this is a Western North Carolina downpour." And the funny story to this is I had a pretty good kicker that year named Will Roper, and we had this ball that literally we bought it at Walmart, but it had the NFHS stamp on it, and it was hard to handle.
I'm not sure about the stamp, man.
Hey, we kicked that ball off. Tell me, did it bounce off somebody's chest or what? I mean, you were kind of mad at me a little bit. Well, tell me about the ball.
Oh, no, we were mad. The balls ended up on our sideline somehow. I don't know if they sent it to the wrong sideline. I looked at this ball that Will was kicking, and Coach Lawler says there's a stamp on it, so we're going to take his word for it. But I told my coaches, I said, "Look at this ball." I told the official, I said, "They bought this at Kmart." And what's funny is after the game, we could always get along after a game. And no matter who, we lost that game, by the way, and both of us had really good football teams. I thought the rain would help me, and it ended up we couldn't pull and trap like we wanted to. So the rain actually hurt us a little bit, I think. But anyway, you won that game, and after it was over, we were laughing, cutting up. And I said, "Where did you get that ball at Kmart?" And I think you come back with, "No, I actually bought it at Walmart."
Oh, yeah. Kmart had closed at the time in Innisfil, but that when you just said something I wanted to hit on, because I coached a long time, and it meant a lot to me, win or lose, when you could walk across the field to that coach, and no matter whether you won or lost, they won or lost, they were the same every time. The game was over. friendship was still there, the camaraderie. Yeah, we were going to try to beat each other as hard as we could. We're going to study film. We're going to get after it. But in the end, and I think Joey would agree with this, we were competing with each other, not against each other. And I think there's a big difference. You don't get caught up in that. But I just miss that, being an athletic director and the coach there, the camaraderie. So that was a big thing, and I think the kids saw that in you too, Coach Robinson. And hey, man, tell me about your greatest coaching memory. What's your best memory as a coach?
That would be a really hard one. I mean, at Mount Heritage, when I first went there, I think I was the 18th coach in 30 years, and just was not a whole lot of tradition. And I came there as an assistant for 2 years, and in '99 we had a really good team that won the conference. We actually Mike Cumbo and North Henderson was in that league, and Kenny Ford at Owen and was in the league, and we won the conference that year and won Mount Heritage's first playoff game. I was assistant coach with Pete Peterson, and then 2 years later took it. I knew that it was going to be a struggle, and everybody there told me, and I had coaches in the profession tell me, don't go there, don't take that job, and I knew it was going to be a really hard job, and we were fortunate enough to get a hold of the youth league and start a youth league there and develop it, and my first third and fourth grade football team in the youth league in 2007. We were a 21-point underdog to Mitchell. Mitchell was really good. Russell Barnett was coaching them then, and had a really good quarterback in Joe Holman, and they were so explosive. And they were a 21-point favorite against us. And that's when that night was the first night that we implemented what we call the power spread. Some people call it the power wing T. We don't run a lot of traditional wing T stuff. We run a lot of counter, but we're in the shotgun, but we're running a ton of ball control and power. I call it the power spread, whatever it is. I don't know what it is, but we implemented that night and kept the ball 38, almost 39 minutes out of a 48-minute game, and we upset them that night at their place. And I think that was the night that it really changed the tide. And those third and fourth graders that started in the youth league that year were juniors. And the fourth graders were juniors and the third graders were sophomores. And when we won that game that night, I think it really turned our program around, and our kids started believing, and it set us up for 2008 when we went to the third round and played on Thanksgiving, and then on to 2009 when we made the state championship run. And ever since then we've had a flow of kids coming from our youth league, and it's allowed us to have a program instead of a team. And so that, I think that night was probably the memory that you look at, and even with the state championships and stuff, and then the regional championship on your home field, this. I mean, having a regional championship on your home field is unbelievable. And then we've been blessed enough to play in 2 more regional championships after that. And then getting to share some of that with kids that you've known from the time they were in kindergarten to high school is different. And I'll say that to young coaches. Jumping ship and going from school to school and doing that, be careful, because you're going to lose a relationship that you're going to build with those kids from the time they're in the second grade to high school. And at Mountain Heritage, we're blessed and fortunate enough to get to know the parents, the kids, from the time they're in the second grade to the time they're at the high school. So it's a lot more meaningful to coach those kids.
Man, you hit it spot on. You've created a culture there that people, and I've heard people say they wanted to go sit down with Joey Robinson and learn his offense and this and that. And you can learn all the X's and O's you want to. It's that culture. Any offense and defense, whatever you choose, but you build a culture there that's unbelievable. Did you tell me now? You have your youth leagues. Y'all camp out on the football field, don't you?
We did. We used to camp out with them on Friday nights. We had a week-long camp. Started on Tuesday, went through Friday, and then the dads would bring tents and set them up on our practice field or our game field, and we camped out that night and played flag football all night. And then we had a couple of close calls where, of course, I had to stay up all night and make sure the kids were doing okay. And then there's one morning when I was on my way home having 2 boys in the car and actually fell asleep and just about wrecked and killed us. And I said right then, as fun as it is, and as much fun as it is, I'm sending some high school kids home that were running a camp. They were driving home in the mornings too after that. And I said, it's probably not a very smart move on my part to do that. And so we stopped camping out. We stay as late as we can. We turn the game lights on. We bring pizza into them and do all those things. But we stopped camping out just for that reason, just for a safety reason for my kids. I was really concerned. But it's a culture. And I told my principal this week, we're in this virtual learning, and there's no kids at school. And we were sitting down talking. And I said, I feel like all my strengths have been taken away from me because I don't consider myself a great X and O coach. That's not my strengths. I'm not a big clinic. I watch a lot of film, but I'm not a big clinic guy. I don't go to a ton of clinics and try to learn the new things that's going on and this. It's just not my cup of tea. My cup of tea is in relationships. And I feel like with these kids being gone, that we can't lose that culture. And my biggest worry is not being able to be with the kids and have that culture and keep that relationship going, because I think that's our biggest strength at my age.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. The relationships. I mean, and I'm going to speak to three-dimensional coaching here toward the end of this, but three-dimensional coaching talks about what you said, the X's and O's. You got to be good at that, the skill and that type of stuff. But then you got that mental part of it. And then the part you're great at, coach, and not many coaches get to, is you're good at coaching the heart. I've watched you interact with those kids. You remind me of a Tony Dungy. I remember Tony Dungy. I went to a clinic one time, and he said his first day at Tampa Bay, he went in and had the whole team. And he said, how many of you need me to cuss and scream and belittle you to get you to work hard? And he said, not one hand went up. And you're proof that you can do it out of love and build relationships, and it works. Any coach I've ever seen that approaches the game like you do, Coach, they have a lot of success. And I'm not even talking about X's and O's. I'm talking about later on in life. Hey, speak to some of those best players that you coached. This is a good chance for you to talk about some of those kids that, obviously Trevor and Trey, your boys, is two as good as I've ever seen in high school football. Hey, but talk about some of those great players, man.
Oh, we've had some really good ones and some that, I think the key to winning high school football, and I think you would agree with this, is everybody's going to have those superstar players, but taking those kids that are your average kids and making them better than the average player on the other team. That's who's going to win. The core of the team is going to win. Everybody's got the game breakers and the superstars and those guys. And, we've had some really good ones. On the 2007, 2018, we had a running back named Jesse Ballou. Jesse, nobody knows a lot about Jesse, but Jesse never started a football game. He was never a starter in youth league. He was never a starter in middle school. And he only got on the field when he was a sophomore JV player on the JV team. And when he was a senior, he led Western North Carolina in rushing. And had an unbelievable year in 2008 for us. And then after him, of course, we had Casey Randolph, who rushed for 3,000 yards his senior year and led us to a state championship. And of course, that year we had a line, Zach Howell and Taylor Kingpin Fender and Casey Peterson. And some of those guys were just unbelievable linemen. And they're the ones that got us that reputation of we're going to run the ball. We're going to be really good up front. Then we kept it going a little bit, and then we had some great quarterbacks: Josh Laws, Kurt Burnett, even Jonathan Hensley was one of my first quarterbacks back when we were struggling, but he was a phenomenal quarterback. He's coaching at Hayesville now. Then we get into the more recent years where we've had some really good football players, and the Trey's senior class was unbelievable group of football players. Probably the best team that we've ever had was the 2017 team. That, we came up a 2-point conversion short at Reidsville, but that team had all the parts. And I hate to mention a ton of them because I'm going to lose somebody out. But Trey had an unbelievable career with us, and I think he ended with Western North Carolina's all-time leading rusher, and worked for it. It wasn't easy for him or Trevor to play for me because it was it's how it is. You're going to get a lot of comments about you and this, that, and the other, but both of them handled it really well.
Oh yeah, I know. I mean, just a little bit. I mean, my daughter, she ran track, but I thought my wife was going to kill me and Emma. We'd get to talking about pole vaulting at the dinner table and what we could do better here and do better there. And I learned to back off, man.
We made a rule at my house, and people don't believe this, but when Trevor was I guess he was a sophomore. We were playing pole, and it was raining, and he struggled and had a pretty bad game. And he rode home with me that night, and I mean, it was a bad ride home. And I'll never forget, I got home and laid in bed, and my eyes popped up, and I said, this is the stupidest thing that I've ever done in my life. So I got up and went into his room and woke him up, and I said, listen, I'm sorry. I said, here's our rule. I'm going to coach you at practice, and I'm going to coach you as hard as I can during the games, and it's probably not going to be fair. I'm probably going to be a little harder on you than I am the other kids because that's just the way it is. But I said, here's my deal. When we leave the practice field and we leave the game, I will not bring football up to you unless you bring it up. If you bring it up, it's fair game, so you better be ready. So, and we live by that rule through Trevor and Trey. People say, you watch film with them at home. You had those guys at home. I don't know that Trey and I ever watched a film together at home. And if it was, it's because he brought it to me and asked a question while he was watching it. But never once did we sit down and watch film together. And it was time for me to be dad when I got home, and that worked out really, really good. And we was talking earlier about the one thing I would tell some of these coaches is I had a coach one time tell me that they don't have to love you; they just have to respect you. And I think that's a load of crap. I don't believe that. I think that if you want to get the most out of your kids, they better love you. I mean, I believe that with everything in me. And I'm not talking about being their best friend. I think the players from Mountain Heritage, they have a fear of me in the fact that I'm gonna hold them accountable for not just on the field, but in the classroom and everything else. But I try to tell each one of them every day that I love them. I mean, and the players that come back, I tell them I love them. And the one thing I tell these guys is respect's good, love's better. I can promise you that. And if they love you, they'll respect you. So don't lose that relationship. Don't make it a coach-player relationship only, and it's huge.
Man, that was one of my questions. I agree 100%. That's 3D coaching, and you're at that top level with that coach. Hey, the things you're saying describe Jesus Christ. I mean, we're Fellowship of Christian Athletes. What does Christ mean to your coaching and to your life? The FCA involvement in your program, and tell me how Christ plays a role in your life, Coach.
Well, I don't see how people do it without it. Especially during this time, I was blessed enough to being raised by an unbelievable godly father and mother. And when the church doors were open Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Bible school, I was in church, and unbelievable upbringing inside of the church, and that's all of our friends came from the church. I mean, it was Phil McKinney, who was probably one of my coaching mentors, coached basketball at Mitchell, and my fly fishing buddy, he was one of my heroes too. He went to church with us, and just unbelievable influence in my life. And then I don't see, at Mountain Heritage every Thursday, I lead, and they can fire me whatever they want to, but I'm going to lead a devotion with our kids. It's not going to be, I'm going to lead it with them every Thursday, and we take characters in the Bible. And I don't think there's any way you take the Peter, the Paul, the Daniels, a little guy named Caleb that we talk about at Mountain Heritage. People don't know a lot about Caleb, but he's the one that when they were going into the Promised Land and all the people was talking about all the obstacles that were there, he stood up and said, "Let's go take it. It's ours." And it's as fruitful as they say. And we talk about our Calebs. We got a lot of Calebs on our football team who believe we can do it. But we use those biblical characters and Christ's example. We try to use that a lot with our kids. And I think one of the things our kids look forward to more than anything is Thursday devotions. And they'll even talk about what it's going to be. They'll try to pick, where we're going to be talking out of the Bible. And I try to lead that into my pregame speech. So we try to tie whatever we bring to the devotion on Thursday into what we're going to do right before the game, and why it means something that night. And that walk is, as a high school kid, I was part of the FCA. Steve Atwood, I don't know if you know Steve Atwood or not. Steve Atwood was a wrestling coach at Tuscola. He was a wrestling coach at Mitchell. Went to Tuscola. Steve Atwood was the director of our FCA and had a huge FCA. And it was a major part of my life. We used to go to the state convention and all those things in Greensboro. And it was just a huge part of my life. And then, when we went to Mountain Heritage and I started 1-31, a lot of people don't know that. And we were 1-31 in my first 4 years there. It was one time we had the longest losing streak in Western North Carolina, and broke it against Jim Fox at Roswell. I'll never forget that. We've had a celebration party over there, and he turned out to be one of my coaching mentors. I look up to him as much as anybody. Still call him and talk to him some, and him and Sue both have become part of our lives, and he thought that was a huge night for me. I'll never forget that. I mean, when we broke that losing streak, and his heart was broken, it was tore out, but he took the time to congratulate me and tell me how big that was for our program. But during that 131 stretch, I mean, it was tough. And not to have Christ in your life, I don't see how these coaches can make it. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you just start thinking about the coaches that put Christ first. You got Tony Dungy and Joe Gibbs and Tom Landry. I mean, and Lovie Smith, and you can just go right down the list, and they're just all super successful. And you talk to anybody that played for them, and it's just a wonderful thing. But they were hard on them too. They held them accountable. Hey, one last question, and I'm going to talk a little bit about 3D Coaching Academy and introduce our guest for next week. But hey, we might have some young kids watching this, young players watching this. What advice do you have to young kids playing ball, Coach? It could be in elementary school, middle, high school. What advice you want to give them?
Well, I tell our kids from the very beginning, and there's they can every player that's played for me can tell you this. I'll ask them this question. What people do I not like? And they're going to tell you flat out. Coach Robinson cannot stand people who are selfish and lazy. And I've got this mentality. It's very few things that you have to be. People talk about the recipe for success and the things that you have to be. There is no recipe. It's really simple. If you're unselfish, you work hard, and you treat people right, you're going to be successful. I don't care what you're in. I don't care what you're going to do. I don't care if it's business. I don't care if it's coaching. I don't care if it's playing football. If you're unselfish, you work hard, and you treat people right, you're going to be successful. And we have been really blessed. I mentioned a lot of offensive players and stuff like that, but we've had an unbelievable string of linebackers with Austin Rices and Adam Schuberts and London Mills. Now we got Cason Hall and these guys and players. They ain't just offensive players. I mean, we've been really good defense for the last few years, and they're unselfish. I mean, they're so unselfish. They're not interested in what's going to happen to them when they graduate and whether or not they're going to get this scholarship or that scholarship or this, that, and the other. I've got a kid right now who's probably one of the best D1 prospects that I've ever coached. He's 6 foot, almost 7. He's 230 pounds, and he just now became this prospect. And last year we're in a huge game, Coach Lauder, and I'm calling a play for him to run the ball. And he wasn't real sure. The kid that was in there at the other wing wasn't real sure who to block. And this kid looks at me and says, Coach Robinson, make me the blocker. Give him the ball because I know what I'm doing, blocking. And I'll never forget, that play. I said, this kid's got it right. He's his name is Logan Higgins, and people are going to hear about him. He's an amazing player. But the willingness not to have the ball in his hand. The only thing that mattered to him was winning. And these young kids that they need to get rid of the me. I mean, it's not going to get them anywhere in this life. It's not going to get me anywhere in this life. I can't tell you what my record is now. I can't tell you. And my coaches make fun of me because you've been coach of the year before in your conference, and you've had these accolades. And when those plaques come in, I'll take them, stick them in the drawer. And they laugh at me. And I said, listen, if we're going to preach we got to be we. It can't be about me. And there's nothing at Mountain Heritage that's been about me. I've had unbelievable coaches around me that have worked their tail ends off and have done an unbelievable job. I mean, I'm amazed that I'm on this show tonight with technology, because I don't do the technology in my school. Coach Pope does that for me, and he's usually right there with me to show me what to do. But kids, players, young men, if you want to be a good dad, if you want to be a good worker, if you want to be an employee, if you want to be a good boss, be unselfish, work hard, and treat people right. It's just that simple. So,
Coach, you live that out. I mean, that's how you treated me. If you beat me, if you didn't beat me, just watching you interact with everybody, and I watch how your kids interact, and it's just a testimony. Coach, hey, I thank you for coming on. If you'll just pause a second, I'll tell you bye real good here. But hey, behind me, anybody watching, you see up top, FCACoachesAcademy.com. It's a chunk of time. It's a free course, but it trains you to be a coach like what Coach Robinson's been talking about. It talks about that skill, but it talks about how to coach the mind, and it talks about how to coach the heart with Christ first principles. Absolutely free course. Anyone can take it. I did it when I retired and got into FCA, and I'm sitting here going, why wasn't that something I could have done when I was 22 years old? What a difference it would have made. And Coach Robinson lives that out. Next week, you don't want to miss 7 o'clock right here. We're going to have Sue Moon. She is a legendary volleyball coach, one of the top 5 winningest coaches in the history of the state in volleyball. She'll be here with us Monday night. So you don't want to miss Sue Moon next week. And the week after that, we've got 2 more weeks lined up. We've got the head coach at Polk County High School basketball, and then the head football coach at Shelby High School, that won our state championship recently, is going to be with us. So you don't want to miss Coaching Corner every Monday night at 7. Hey, Coach Robinson, man, thank you so much for coming on this show. It's made my whole week to get to talk to someone the caliber of you and what you stand for. And, man, thanks for being on. And, Coach, if you don't mind, I'll close us out in a prayer if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Hey, dear Lord, I just want to thank anyone that is watching this for tuning in, dear Lord. That you can't get better advice for athletics than you can get from these coaches, dear Lord. Thank you for Joey Robinson, what he means to Yancey County, dear Lord. I'm a testimony for him that he does it the right way. And dear Lord, kids are lucky to have somebody like that loves them first, no matter whether they win or not, dear Lord. He puts everything he's got into them. I just pray that others could take this advice, dear Lord, and be unselfish, treat others fairly, and work hard, and you'll be successful in anything you do. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Hey, thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, till next week, guys. Thanks for tuning in.